Counting Beans by Zozo Thomas. The dwarf bean awoke as the early morning sun hit her leaves. She looked up as a voice from above her said cheerily, "Good morning, Lofty. How are you?" She replied to the tall French beans swaying above her on their bamboo supports, "Hello, Tiny. Hello, Minnie. Hello, Titch. What's the weather like up there?" "The sun's coming up, but there's a chilly breeze. What's it like down there?" "Nice and snug, thanks to you protecting me from the wind." Lofty had been the only dwarf bean in a bag of seeds brought back from a flower show. She'd thought that she'd be lonely, but a kindly old onion had reassured her that people can be nice, even if they don't look like you, and she got on well with the French beans. They laughed and joked together and developed the nicknames for each other. The French beans had called her Lofty when it was clear that she was going to be tiny compared to them, so she had named them Tiny, Minnie, and Titch in response. The height of the French beans meant that they could see right across the garden as far as the broken greenhouse and the compost heap. They told her everything that went on, describing the hedgehogs that hunted amongst the undergrowth for worms and slugs, and pointing out the birds that soared high above the garden. In exchange, Lofty told them what was happening on the ground, describing the activities of the earthworms and the ants, and warning them about approaching snails and slugs that would eat their leaves. It was a shame that not all her neighbours were as nice. She dreaded the bullies waking up. All the seeds in the bag brought back from the flower show had germinated. The 3 climbing French beans had been planted in a row on one side. 3 rough, tough, broad beans had been planted in a row facing them, and Lofty lived between them. The broad beans, Basher, Bruiser, and Bumper, with their rough stalks, thick leaves, and small white flowers, were horrible to the other beans, constantly criticising them, taking the mickey out of them, and threatening them. "Will you shut up about the ants? You're doing me head in!" shouted Basher, as Lofty described the new colony of ants that were making a home at the edge of the path. "Don't speak to my friend like that!" shouted Titch. "I'll speak to that annoying little squirt any way I like. You can't stop me," retorted Basher, squaring his leaves up towards the thinner, taller plant opposite him. "I can stop you and I will!" cried Titch. He sent a thin tendril out towards Basher. "No, Titch, don't!" cried Lofty. "You'll get hurt." "He's the one that's going to get hurt. Watch this!" replied Titch, as he wrapped another tendril around Basher's thick stem, strangling him. "Stop it, Titch!" cried Tiny. "Leave him alone, he's not worth it!" cried Minnie. "Please stop!" cried Lofty, but it was too late. Just at that moment the gardener appeared in her yellow Wellington boots. "What's going on here?" she asked. "Look at you 2 all entwined with each other. We can't have that. Let me untangle you." She started tugging at Titch's tendrils, but he clung on tight. As Titch gripped tighter, the gardener pulled harder until there was a sickening crunching sound, and Titch's roots were pulled right out of the ground. Oh no, what's going to happen to Titch? Find out by reading Counting Beans by Zozo Thomas, published by Forward Thinking Publishing. Available to order from Amazon's, Waterston's, and many independent bookshops.